The US continued to refuse to acknowledge the fact that the armaments debt repayments it demanded after World War I and their payment schedule were contingent upon how quickly the Allies could collect reparations from Germany, and this altered the course of history. Then Chancellor of the Exchequer, Philip Snowden, noted that, once the funding arrangements of the current plan fully matured, the United States would be receiving roughly $600 million a year. However, the most that could be collected in German reparations per year was no more than $250 million, and that was the best-case scenario, though the Dawes Plan would allow for an eventual $625 million a year. The thing is, said Snowden, no one actually believed that Germany would be able to scrape together anything close to $625 million a year. Basically, all German reparations, and probably an additional equal sum on top of that, were going to be handed over to the United States. Quote, "We have no selfish ends to serve. We desire no conquest, no dominion. We seek no indemnities for ourselves, no material compensation for the sacrifices we shall freely make," end quote, said President Woodrow Wilson in his address to Congress on April 2, 1917. For a country who'd entered World War I with no indemnities and no desire for material gain, Snowden observed, quote, "This is not a bad arrangement," end quote. Belgium was required to pay the $171 million it had borrowed, despite a prior promise from President Wilson to the contrary, though the US government did agree to waive the interest. Britain and France, who lent Belgium even more money than the US had, forgave both the interest and the principal. And so, Britain turned to France and Germany to come up with the money. France was ordered to force to obtain what it couldn't in cash, and in 1921 seized the economically important and mineral-rich Saar, the third largest coal, iron, and steel industry region in Germany. To quote economist and professor Michael Hudson, quote, "It was a period in which the most extortionate of nationalistic acts were inspired by the frustration at the economic situation imposed upon the world by the United States," end quote. That was episode 20 of this series on Super Imperialism by professor and economist Michael Hudson. If you want to understand how the exploitative economic strategy of American empire works, and how the US's military and Cold War balance of payments deficit became the foundation for world central bank reserves in today's world monetary system, I highly recommend checking out Super Imperialism. Stay tuned for part 21.